Hey everyone, welcome to Judging for the Win. I'm Dave, and this is my daily ruling. Amy plays Abrupt Decay, and Nick counterbores it. What happens? Alright, so to see exactly how this works, we're going to go through line by line and talk about exactly what happens at each step, starting with the resolution of Counterbore. Now, the first thing that it's going to try to do is counter Abrupt Decay. However, because Abrupt Decay says right on the card that you can't counter it, then that step is impossible to do, and so it just doesn't happen. Now, we'll go on to the next line, and notice that with Counterbore, it's a little bit different from some other cards, such as, for example, Fold into Ether, which makes the extra stuff that it does contingent on actually countering the spell. Counterbore has no such wording on it, which means that all the extra stuff happens whether the original spell gets countered or not. So Nick does, in fact, get to search Amy's library and hand and graveyard for any other copies of Abrupt Decay, and those will get exiled, just like normal. Now, if you're Amy, you probably aren't super excited about that. So what can she do? Well, one idea would be to use something like unsubstantiate. So if Amy unsubstantiates Nick's Counterbore, well, then her original Abrupt Decay will of course resolve as normal, and all her other Abrupt Decays will be safe for the time being, but Nick will get the Counterbore returned to his hand. So that's not really an ideal solution, probably. Another possibility would be that Amy could unsubstantiate her own Abrupt Decay. Because you're returning it to its owner's hand, that does not count as countering it. Notice that unsubstantiate does not say the word counter on it anywhere, unlike something like, say, a remand. Now, another really important thing that would happen then is when Counterbore tries to resolve, it'll notice something very strange. The spell that it was targeting has vanished. There is no such target anymore. And with only one target available, that means all of the targets of Counterbore are now illegal. What that means is that Counterbore, when it tries to resolve, will instead just be put into its owner's graveyard, and none of its effects will happen, even the ones that don't have anything to do with the thing that was targeted. So, that would mean that Counterbore will have been permanently defeated by Amy, and all the rest of her cards will be happily staying where they are and not getting exiled. So that's pretty cool. There's one other thing I wanted to touch on while I'm on the topic. So the Abrupt Decay that I have up on screen there is my favorite, the original. However, if you look at the updated wording, you might notice something interesting. That this one says that it can't be countered, whereas the original only said that it couldn't be countered by spells or abilities. What gives? So, the reason for this change actually has to do with the question that we were talking about just now. When you had the Counterbore get put into its owner's graveyard with no effect, that used to be considered countering that card. The CR said right in it that that spell was countered instead of put into its graveyard with no effect. They changed the rules on that a while back, and now it's not considered to be countered in a case like this. That means that if, for example, Amy Abrupt Decayed some creature, and the creature's controller unsubstantiated that creature in response, then the Abrupt Decay would have to be countered by game rules in order to leave the stack. However, with the current wording in the CR, the Abrupt Decay doesn't have to be countered by the game rules, and is instead just put into its owner's graveyard with no effect. And that difference means that we can shave a couple of words off of the oracle text of Abrupt Decay and other cards like it. Now, any card that has no target will have the same can't be countered message as a card that does have a target. All of them say that they can't be countered. We don't need a special rider that says countered by spells or abilities for the ones that have a target, because now the game rules are not targeting them anymore. Well, that was pretty technical, and for most cases, it's not really going to matter for anything, since it's more or less just a non-functional change, with a couple of extra weirdo exemptions. However, I hope everybody found this little delve into Magic templating history as interesting as I did. But that's all I have for you today. How did you do? Join me again tomorrow for another daily ruling, but until then, I hope you have a great day.